Okay, it is 6 o'clock, and we will call this meeting to order. Give me a minute here. I'm going to swap out meeting agendas. Thank you for that. All right, so we've called the meeting to order, and we need to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, because we didn't do it at the other. Right. Oh, yeah, okay, so I'm sorry, I opened the wrong, hang on, I did not open the organizational meeting. Let me get the right agenda open. Thank you. Okay, all right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we adopt the agenda, we have organizational appointments to make in accordance with state statute. So I am going to ask Ms. Boyd-Nerona to read the motion to make appointments for our board, the clerk of the board, so that we can officially move forward with our meeting, and 2 other appointments.
Mm-hmm. In accordance with state law, KSA 72-1135 and 72-1136, the Shawnee Mission School District Board of Education shall make the following 3 appointments. Ms. Shelley Trenholm as board clerk, Dr. David Stubblefield as treasurer, Mr. Russell Knapp as deputy treasurer.
All right, do I have a second?
Second, Borgman.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, now we need to adopt the agenda. Do I seek a motion?
So move, Borgman.
All right, second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. For this organizational meeting, the consent items are primarily the remaining district appointments, again in compliance with state statute. So that would be items under consent 1 through 13. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Alfred.
All right, second? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have 2 action items in relation to our organizational meeting. The first is resolution to establish the Board of Education meeting dates for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. And this involves a resolution. Ms. Owsley, are you in it? That'd be great. There we go.
So be it resolved that pursuant to KSA 72-1138, the Board of Education USD 512, Johnson County, Kansas, at its organizational meeting on June 24th, 2024, established the following meeting schedule for regular Board of Education meetings to be held during the 2024-2025 school year. Meetings will generally begin at 5:30 p.m. on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month, except for July, September, November, December, March, and May, when there will be 1 regular meeting. Meetings will be held in the boardrooms of the Center for Academic Achievement, 8200 West 71st Street, Shawnee Mission, Kansas. If the established meeting date falls on a legal holiday or a holiday specified by the Board of Education, such regular meeting will be scheduled on the date specified, commencing at the same hour and at the same location as detailed above. If the established meeting date is canceled because of an emergency within 24 hours of such cancellation, the board shall establish and give notice of the new meeting date and time. The Board of Education reserves the right to adjourn any regular meeting to another time and place.
All right, so we need a motion to approve and second the schedule for next year.
So moved, Boyd-Nerona.
All right, second?
Second, Hembry.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And then we have our final, or our second and final item of the agenda is the ratification of policies. So this would be a motion to approve all policies as they stand, again, in compliance with state statute. We need to do this annually. It does not preclude our capacity to, or our ability to modify policies as we go throughout the school year. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Owsley.
Second?
Second, Hembry.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and that concludes our organizational meeting. Thank you. Now we can begin our regularly scheduled board meeting, so I'm going to call that to order. We have done the Pledge of Allegiance, and we need an adoption of the agenda.
So moved. Westbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have 3 minutes of approval, needing approval, items 1.3 to 1.5. I believe a correction was made on one of them prior to the meeting. So do I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Second?
Second, Ousley.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And that begins our item 2.1, our superintendent's report. And
I'm ready.
the last one of the career.
I'm ready. So tonight marks my final board meeting as a superintendent of the Shawnee Mission School District. My time as superintendent here has been a wonderful way to wrap up 33 years in education. I want to extend my thanks for the warm reception that was held for Dr. Gilhouse and myself before the board meeting tonight. The support of the members of the board, the community, staff, colleagues mean the world to both of us. I look forward to continuing to support the district as a dedicated community member. I'm confident that Dr. Schumacher will lead the district to amazing things, and I'm excited for the future under his leadership. Keep shining, Shawnee Mission. The best is yet to come. I would like to offer my congratulations to the newest class of leadership, Shawnee Mission. Every summer, a select group of incoming juniors and seniors are invited to participate in an invitation-only 2-week summer leadership development program offered by the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation. The program combines career mentorship experiences with a classroom curriculum focused on skills such as conflict resolution, communication, responsibility, and trust. This year, 29 students accepted the opportunity to participate. I'm so proud of their dedication and achievements, and we thank the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation for providing this incredible opportunity. I look forward to seeing these students excel as leaders within our district and beyond. June 10th marked the beginning of Summer Enrichment Program at SMSD. This program offers students the opportunity to explore and discover in a variety of different areas of interest. Students kicked off their summer learning experiences by taking classes in art, music, culinary arts, technology, science, nature, sports, and more. This summer, the program is being held at West Ridge Middle School. Enrollment for the program is still open, and we will include a link to enrollment information in the board recap for anyone who would like more information. So, no, I don't have a guest. Can I come back to my superintendent's report here in a few minutes? Okay. Maybe we can do it, maybe we do board report and maybe come back?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so board reports. I'm going to start with Mr. Garcia. Is there any update on SMAC PTA or the Shawnee Mission Educational Foundation?
No report for either. Sorry to make it quick, but
All right.
Come on, Mario?
All right. How about you, Ms. Corbin? Can you drag it out?
Well, it started with, no, actually, there was a phenomenal Board of Directors meeting in Topeka a couple weekends ago, and it was just, I just love KASB, just phenomenal guidance, just what they do for our state, for all children across the state. We talked about KISA 2.0 and just the accreditation updates, which I know we're going to be hearing a lot about in the upcoming weeks, months. And there were several Title IX updates that kind of fall under that legal umbrella with policy. And so I know that our legal counsel, Ms. Rachel England, will have some policy updates for us as we sort of, as those become policy for how we govern Title IX. And then we also looked at cell phones and cell phone policies, because this is not only an issue for Shawnee Mission, but it's an issue across the state. And they brought up an interesting case study in Chanute. Chanute recently went to a no cell phones from the time school starts till the time school ends. And they said that for the first 2 weeks, it was horrible. And then they said the first student to sort of get a warning was the superintendent's own child. And, but after sort of that 2 week of sort of grumbling and enforcement, that it was smooth sailing, and they had a phenomenal school year as a result. So they're really, the KASB board member that brought it up was someone who was initially opposed to a cell phone ban. But she said in seeing it with her own kids, she's so thankful that Chanute implemented this policy, and it was a phenomenal school year. And so we're really kind of looking at trying to see if we can see some outcome data associated with just, their cell phone policy and test scores and those things. So it was a phenomenal meeting, and once again, I appreciate the opportunity to go and represent Shawnee Mission.
All right, thank you. Are there any, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have the Legislative Committee and KASB Nominating Committee. Do you all have dates of upcoming meetings that you have at hand? Are those coming up in August?
I believe it's either August or September is the next time the legislative committee meets.
Yep, so we did talk about the nominating committee, and they did not actually give us a date,
Okay.
a specific date. But just so you guys are aware, I think what they're going to do, what KASB is going, the board of directors, what we're going to recommend is that we sort of dissolve that nominating committee and have the board of directors sort of take that on, because as we have learned, I was on the nominating committee prior to getting on the board of directors, and when you're on the nominating committee, you don't always have a good understanding, a true understanding of exactly what is needed for that president role. And so we felt like as a group that it should be the role of the board of directors, and so we will have a nominating committee for this next cycle. But then when we have the convention, we are going to bring a motion to dissolve the committee because, again, we don't want to put KASB in sort of a bind with maybe someone that may not be the best fit for KASB.
Okay,
And the next meeting is in July.
okay.
For the nominating committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that, yeah.
Or KSB, okay, all right. Thank you both for that. Okay, so let's see, did Policy Review Committee meet?
No.
No, right, okay. So I think we can skip through to are you ready for the task force update? Okay, Ms. Embry.
Yeah, so happy to provide an update on behalf of myself, Ms. Borgman, and Mr. Westbrook. We are the three members of the Donations, Gifts, and Bequests Task Force. We had our first meeting last week on Tuesday, June 18th here at the CAA. We spent quite a bit of time identifying the mission of the task force and what our purpose is. We decided it was to provide policy guidance for administrators and the Board of Education. Our goal is to ensure that gifts, donations, and bequests support our mission of providing equal access to a high-quality educational experience regardless of a student's address or the economic conditions of their community. So at this point, we did a lot of work just trying to have an overview of our current policies and practices concerning community-funded positions, extracurriculars, grants. We've been working some with Mike on getting a summary of donations from the past few years, so we really want to understand the lay of that land before we do anything else. We aim to provide an update at the August Board of Education meeting where we'll propose some next steps that would likely involve something going before the Policy Review Committee. Our next meeting is July 19th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. It will be publicly noticed. We've kind of affirmed our commitment as a task force to make sure that all of our conversations on that topic are held in public, continue to be held in public with as much transparency as we can. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I think we should table questions for the full report.
Sure.
Unless there's any process questions, does anybody have? I don't mean to shut that down. Does anybody have any process questions? Okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay. Dr. Hubbard, are you ready, or do we need to come up with another committee report? Okay.
I am ready. So my final item tonight is, I have been so honored to represent our district and our state as the Kansas Superintendent of the Year. There are two parts of this experience that I have made especially meaningful for me. First, it's been such an amazing opportunity to be able to shout out and highlight the Shawnee Mission School District, specifically our amazing team and our incredible students everywhere I go. The second experience I'm so excited to share with everyone this evening. As a Superintendent of the Year, I had the privilege of presenting a student with a $4,000 scholarship that has been given through the support of Security Benefit. This scholarship will be given to a member of the class of 2024 who recently graduated and who is passionate about becoming a public school teacher with an intent to come back and teach in the Shawnee Mission School District. I'm thrilled that this scholarship is going to help those who will nurture our next generation of learners. We have so many amazing people who are preparing to become educators in the future, but there was one scholarship applicant in particular that stood out above the crowd. And they showed a strong commitment to special education, something that is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm so honored tonight to present a $4,000 scholarship to Isela Gatewood. So. Isela, you can stay in your seat for just one more moment, because before I ask you to come up here, Dr. Gilhouse is going to share parts of your application, quite frankly, because I can't.
Isela shared a personal story in her application sharing about Libby, who became her best friend when they were 5 years old. Isela explains how when she reached about 8 years old, she began to learn and understand her best friend Libby had special needs. It was then that she began to hear other students define Libby by her disability. Isela writes, "Even at 8, I never considered her separate from our classmates because to me, she was just Libby." This experience inspired Isela to pursue more opportunities to learn how to help students with special needs. Isela became a cadet teacher and she enrolled in personal life skills. In her junior year, she chose to spend her time providing after-school care for students with special needs. Throughout the years, she learned how to create lesson plans, teach life skills, facilitate special sport opportunities, and advocate for students with special needs. She also remained friends with Libby from their time at Trailwood to their time at Shawnee Mission South, where they graduated together in May. Isela also writes how inspired she is by her parents, who are teachers. Her dad, Travis Gatewood, teaches at Shawnee Mission South, and her mom teaches gymnastics in our community. I want to leave you all with some of what Isela wrote. As a special education teacher, I will build strong relationships with each student and their family. I will make students feel valued and know that they can rely on me. I will ensure that my students get every resource and opportunity that they need to be successful in their lives, and I will advocate to all members of the community the value of belonging and the need for inclusiveness. Just like my dad, who has been part of SMSD since kindergarten, I started kindergarten at Trailwood Elementary. And just like him, I see a future in returning to our district to make the same kind of positive impacts and lifelong connections. I want to give back to the community that has given me so much, so thank you for this opportunity. So Isela, sorry, I've been working on that name today. If you would please come up and join Dr. Hubbard up front so that she can officially present you with the Kansas Superintendent of the Year Scholarship. Libby, if you would like to join, you are more than welcome as well.
the absolute best part of being a superintendent ever. So that concludes my report.
Can we just stop right there? No, we had more great work to do. That was fantastic. Congratulations. All right, we have one last communication item, the board financial report, item 2.3. Dr. Hubbard. I'm sorry, I gave you a minute there.
Yeah, so attached you will find the board report ending May of 2024 and SR3 expenditure report. We'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions? We're just spending down our ESSER funds and, yep, okay. All right, okay, no questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Hubbard and Mr. Knapp. All right, this begins our discussion item. So 3.1, our strategic plan cycle 2 report.
Yeah, so before we get started, this is a fairly long presentation. We're going to do our best to move through it as quickly as possible, but this work is invaluable and it's been really quite amazing. So as we've gone through the strategic planning process, I'm reminded of what a great community that we live in. We talk about our strategic plan as a community plan because it is. We have so many people from across this community, teachers, staff, administrators, students, community members who volunteer a lot of time to make this happen. To everyone that has worked on this plan, on behalf of the Board of Education and myself, we thank you so much. And for those of you in the audience that worked on the plan, would you please stand up for me? Yeah. And this is really a small number of people in the magnitude of this plan. So on this second slide, you will see that this was our timeline that we originally started with. So our work really began in December, and we culminated on June 6th, where the action teams presented to the steering committee. And I feel great that we stuck to our timeline consistently, and we have a great plan for you tonight. So the goals for Cycle 1 strategic plan were the same as the goals as KISA 1.0. These goals that you see on the screen now are still KISA 1.0. We'll be writing new goals for KISA 2.0, and we will align those goals with this plan as well. But I think that you will see that there is a lot of alignment between the KISA goals and the strategic plan, and that's intentional, and we want it to remain that way. And I feel strongly that the KISA goals for Cycle 2 will match the plan because it shouldn't be different work. It's all about the same work that we're doing every day for kids. So we'll work really hard to ensure that that is the case. I would ask you, because this report is so long, that if you could just hold your questions to the end, I think we can move through it a little more quickly. So with that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Neal, who has really been the amazing organizer behind keeping us on task, keeping that timeline going, keeping our volunteers fed, and treats and candies on the table to make sure, you give them candy and they come back. So, Dr. Neal, we are greatly appreciative of your work to get us where we are today. And with that, I'm going to let you continue.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard. Members of the board, I apologize. My voice just is not coming back. I've been fighting laryngitis, so I told someone earlier if I talk slow and soft, it sounds better, so we'll try to get through it. Dr. Hubbard, it's been a wonderful collaboration to work on this project, an honor to work with all of the community members who have shared their perspectives. Shelley Trenholm, who has been just a tremendous support to help with some of the logistics. So it has just been an honor and a privilege. So you might remember that we kind of kicked off the process right at the end of December, and we opened it up for individuals in the community to share their voices through thought exchange, and then also to receive applicants for those individuals who are interested in being a part of the steering committee. And then in February, the steering committee reviewed district information. They were able to review that thought exchange data. They received an overview of information to set that stage with our wonderful Dr. Lindsay Gunn around strategic thinking and planning. And they celebrated the accomplishments from Cycle 1. And through that process, then, the steering committee was able to review, discuss, and ultimately they affirmed the mission, vision, beliefs, parameters, and objectives. They took time to analyze changes that had occurred in the district, both internally and externally, that had occurred since 2019. Recall we had that pandemic in there, and so they took all of those things into account as they were thinking about where we were coming from and where we wanted to go. They identified critical issues facing the school district, and from that robust discussion, they defined 6 strategies on which to focus in Strategic Plan Cycle 2 to achieve those objectives. Our steering committee included 31 members who represented a variety of roles, from parents to students, certified and classified team members, community members, and board members across all 5 of our feeder areas in the school district. They represented elementary and secondary perspectives and also a number of diverse perspectives. The committee initially met in February and they met again in June. They were thorough, they were thoughtful, they discussed in depth all areas of their work, and our student representatives who could not be with us this evening, but I just want to remark again, they were truly inspiring, and their voices really had a lot of impact in the discussion during the steering committee work and also later in our action team work as well. The steering committee spent time analyzing the mission, beliefs, parameters, and objectives, as I mentioned, and at the end of that analysis, they believed that those really do continue to be relevant and represent what we believe in Shawnee Mission and hold to be important and what we need to achieve. So they affirmed these and chose not to change any of the language in those beliefs or mission moving forward to Cycle 2. Now, in order to accomplish the objectives that each student will have a personalized learning plan that will prepare them for college and careers with the interpersonal skills they need for life success, the steering committee developed 6 strategies around these areas: learning, belonging, people, technology, mental health, and facilities. And once those strategies were established, we opened it up again for representatives to apply to be a part of an action team associated with each strategy. We selected those members. Some members were appointed based on necessary experience or information they might have to lend to that strategy team. And then we also we tried to honor people's preferences and also picked from a lottery system for that process. These action teams met at least 3 times. Most of them met more than that. They broke off into some specialized groups to do some research to bring back to their whole action team. And then they developed action plans for their strategy. While each action team's work was quite different, they did use common strategies to accomplish that work, including setting group norms, developing action plan statements, and analyzing the costs and professional learning needs of their action plan. These action teams represented a diverse cross-section of the Shawnee Mission community and again included teachers, administrators, classified staff and other district staff, students, parents, and community members. And so, this evening, I am pleased to welcome several members of our steering committee or action team members who are going to share out with you the work of these groups and to highlight a little bit more what those action plans and steps look like for each strategy. And I'd like to start by turning over the podium to Samantha Feinberg. Samantha was a steering committee member, and she is an English language arts teacher at Shawnee Mission East and also a parent of children in our school district. Samantha?
I am here to talk about strategy number 1, which states that we will ensure meaningful and personalized learning experiences for all students. The action team wrote a specific result statement for Action Plan 1.1 in which they introduced the ideas that learning needs to be relevant, students need opportunities to share ownership in what they are learning, and learning needs to relate to their particular interest and goals. The team then developed specific actions related to 1.1, including annual review, connecting the plan beyond the classroom, regular communication with stakeholders, job-embedded professional learning experiences for staff. Action Plan 1.2 refers to high-quality instruction, integrating interpersonal skills, and preparing students for college and career. Action step 1.2.1, I love all the subpoints. I get really excited about the subpoints. Speaks to integrating interpersonal skills into daily instruction. Action step 1.2.2 speaks to the development of a middle school model for action and career exploration, along with a focus on the development of interpersonal competencies. 1.2.3 continues the work to align grading and assessment practices to accurately reflect student growth, work that began during cycle 1. 1.2.4 will work to create a framework that encompasses the various tools, such as individual plans of study and youth science, to help students own their plan for college and career readiness. Action Plan 1.3 will ensure equitable access to differentiated instruction and culturally responsive learning experiences. But wait, there's more. Specific action steps include working to increase the number of pre-K sites, depending on facility capacity and funding availability, formalizing a plan to increase the number of bilingual students, and increasing processional learning around differentiating instruction to meet the needs of individual students. To keep track of our work as it unfolds, each strategy has a Gantt chart to guide implementation. The chart, and I have to tell you, I was a part of the committee during cycle 1 also, and to see all of those, track those Gantt charts over the years is really astounding, the work that's come out of cycle 1. And so we will have charts to track and guide implementation for this cycle as well. The chart details when work will begin on that specific action step, whether or not it is in progress, and when it has been completed. This will allow the system to track progress on each strategy and determine whether adjustments to implementation need to be made. These will also be posted on the website to share out progress with our community. And that is all from me. I'm going to send it over to Brittany.
Hello, Brittany Martin. I am a parent in the community of Isaac and Miles. And so, yeah, I was happy to be a part of the process, and thank you for having me this evening. In Strategic Plan Cycle 1, we work to create a unified, equitable, and inclusive culture. In Cycle 2, we continue that work with the intentional goal of ensuring that every student and staff member feels a sense of belonging. This slide details Action Plan 2.1, where we will work to create a sense of belonging, which will ensure equitable access for all students, staff, and families, enabling them to engage fully in all that SMSD has to offer. Specific steps include implementing training on restorative practices, reviewing and revising district-wide discipline practices, exploring the potential creation of additional family advocate positions to support linguistically and culturally diverse families, and the development of evidence-based feedback cycles to monitor our progress. Action Plan 2.2 speaks to the implementation of a communication strategy to strengthen engagement at all community levels. Specific action steps include a unified step of communications policies and procedures for websites, social media and email communications, training for staff and learning opportunities for families, use of technology to ensure accessible communication, and data gathering to ensure effectiveness. Action Plan 2.3 envisions the development of a community-wide events and programs that strengthen inclusion and belonging for students, staff, families, and community members. Specific action steps include the development of mentorship programs, support groups for marginalized students, district-wide events, ongoing professional development for staff, opportunities to increase student voice, and increase feeder pattern connection and collaboration. I work at an engineering company, and we love a good Gantt chart, so here we go. This slide shows the Gantt chart for Strategy 2 with most actions beginning in years 1 and 2. And on to Vicki. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Vicki Kopp. I'm a classified staff member. Strategy 3 is focused on people, with the idea of Shawnee Mission being the best place in the area to learn, work, and connect. Action Plan 3.1 focuses on growing, developing, mentoring, and supporting diverse and exemplary educators. Action steps under 3.1 include expanding the number of staff with access to mentors, as well as consideration of expansion of opportunities for aspiring teachers. Action step 3.2 focuses on recruiting, developing, and retaining a diverse and exemplary staff with a focus on excellence and inclusivity. Specific action steps under 3.2 include working to recruit current staff to new positions, developing a classified superintendent's advisory council, strengthening our work to onboard new staff, continuing to develop real-world learning opportunities for students, and strengthening our data collection around issues specific to staff. Action Plan 3.3 focuses on recruiting and retaining families in a competitive public education environment. Work in this area includes gathering and analyzing data on the wants and needs of families, identifying and implementing best practices, focusing on attracting and retaining families, and marketing SMSD to families and the community. This slide shows the Gantt chart for Strategy 3, with most actions spread out across years 1 to 4 of the plan. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dave Years. I'm the principal at Shawnee Mission North High School. Our fourth strategy focuses on the use of relevant technology across the district to achieve our mission. Action Plan 4.1 speaks specifically to the use of research-based and developmentally appropriate technologies in order to guarantee student success. The action steps to accomplish 4.1 include developing a pre-K through 12 curriculum and instruction team across all schools to assist in implementing this strategy, auditing to determine how technology is currently being used successfully, creating a guide to age-appropriate usage of technology, adopting and implementing evidence-based strategies for use of technology to meet the differentiated needs of students. Action Plan 4.2 is focused on providing professional learning opportunities to ensure that all members of the SMSD community are equipped to access and use technology effectively. Specific action plan steps for Action Step 4.2 include establishing means to gather data on the impact of technology, creating baseline fundamentals for technology across SMSD, using data to ensure adequate staffing to support management of the various platforms associated with technology, and establishing assessment loops to ensure all maintain baseline digital fundamentals. And then finally, this slide shows the Gantt chart for Strategy 4, with most of our actions beginning in years 1 and 2. And I'll now hand it off to Dr. Chrissy Ziegler.
Good evening. I had the pleasure of serving on the team that was working with Strategy 5, mental health. So the fifth strategy focuses on supporting the mental, social, and emotional well-being of the entire SMSD learning community. This includes physical well-being as well. Action Plan 5.1 focuses on promoting mental health awareness within the community. Work in Action Plan 5.1 includes partnering with mental health professionals to provide ongoing education on overall well-being, developing a comprehensive professional learning plan with goals and objectives that are focused on mental health topics, and establishing a shared understanding of mental health in Shawnee Mission schools. Action Plan 5.2 then focuses on creating a centralized resource platform to support the well-being of the SMSD community. The work in this area related to the action steps include developing an inventory of well-being resources, exploring additions to complement current resources, creating a well-being hub, which will include tools and resources for use at school, home, and across the community, use data to analyze and strengthen the well-being hub, and explore options for using student real-world learning projects to support the creation of the well-being hub with a client-connected project. Action Plan 5.3 will ensure access to school-based mental health professionals in partnership with our community resources. Specific work in this area will include developing a plan to increase staffing to support the social, emotional, and academic needs of students, clarifying roles to best support collaboration between professionals, collaborating with external partners to expand access to mental health support in school and in the community, and expanding access to education and drug and alcohol abuse or addiction support. The Gantt chart for Strategy 5 shows work beginning across years 1, 2, and 3. And I'll now turn back over to Mr. Ewers.
Sorry, you get me twice. Our final strategy focuses on facilities and ensure that we will use our resources to support state-of-the-art facilities to support our beliefs, mission, and objectives. In order to achieve Strategy 6, the district will develop a strategic bond plan that provides for state-of-the-art environments and facilities that support collaboration, engagement, and shared experiences. Action steps for 6.1 include developing a list of recommended facilities projects, recommending Board of Education approval of a minimum tax increase bond referendum, plan, create, and communicate that plan. Provide for ongoing feedback on occupancy and other items related to needs assessment, and use ongoing community partnerships to support state-of-the-art environments and facilities. For Action Plan 6.2, we want to develop and use an ongoing cycle of building maintenance, enhancements, and future developments to utilize the resources of the district to meet the needs of students. Action steps for this plan include audits of factors including human health and well-being, safety and security, infrastructure and learning spaces in order to meet the district mission. Use audit results to develop priorities, determine and implement best practices with regard to facilities, use bond and capital budgets to best enhance facilities to meet the needs of students, staff, and our community, and seek external funding to enhance facilities support for college and career readiness. And finally, this slide shows the Gantt chart for Strategy 6, with ongoing work continuing in year 1 and new work beginning in year 2. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone. Every team did a cost-benefit analysis, and it's important to note that each team worked independently. I say that because we looked at each plan. As we looked at each plan, we realized that there were significant potential costs associated with each of our 6 strategies. We also asked each team to put together a plan for any potential professional learning. Each of these documents can be found in the full document, and we will use them as we consider what will be the largest return on our investment. So that's our new strategic plan. Incredible, right? Absolutely amazing. A huge thank you to all of our presenters tonight. They did a tremendous job. To the hundreds of community members who came together over the last 4 months, who served to develop this plan. It is truly our plan. It's not Dr. Hubbard's, it's not mine, it's not the Board of Education's, it's our communities, it's the entire community. It's our plan. It's bigger and more important than any of us, but it will be my primary responsibility for myself and our administrative team to execute these action steps and to publicly report out to our community our progress towards completion of the items found in those Gantt charts. This is our roadmap over the course of the next 5 years, and there will be many future opportunities for our community to continue to be involved in this work. We will be asking for teachers, students, administrators, parents, and community members to assist us in this work as we move forward. Our team will be communicating in late July and early August, soliciting for additional volunteers. We would anticipate continuing to use thought exchange, perhaps other methods, to obtain community feedback and opinions on all of these action steps. And I would personally ask our community to continue to be engaged with us as we begin the work on these action steps. We will provide our first update to the board and to our community on October 28th. That'll be our first scheduled update. And so with that, just a huge thank you to Dr. Hubbard and Dr. Neal for everything they did to complete this process. It is something that we should be really proud of. Board, this again is our roadmap for success over the next 5 years. I, along with our team, are all in on this plan. Let's get to work, and at this point, our entire team will stand for any questions.
thank you very much for handing us what could, right, is the expertise, time, energy into defining our living document for the next 5 years. So thank you to all of you for putting in this work for the benefit of our students. Dr. Hubbard, did you want to say anything before we get started?
Just again, a big thank you to our community. I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to Mandy Lavelle, who's our graphic artist, who has been working tirelessly. I know every time her phone rings and she sees that it's myself or Dr. Neal, I know she's cringing, but we made it, we got there, and she has done a fabulous job putting the work together.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Well, can I start us off maybe with maybe put some organization to our questions, maybe start with some process questions, and maybe I'll kick off the first one, and then we can dig into strategies. Does that make sense to go that way? I mean, give it a shot. Okay. So could you, Dr. Schumacher, could you speak a little bit more to the process that the teams went through in the cost-benefit analysis and maybe how that's helped inform kind of priorities that either bubbled out from the team or how district leadership, from each of the strategy teams, and then maybe and/or how the district leadership team is thinking about?
Yeah, I think we'll find out more about that cost-benefit analysis as the action teams begin to actually do their work. What we have before us right now in the plan, it's not that it's not positive, it's not that it's not something we will use, but it's kind of at a 10,000-foot view, I would say, to use a terminology. But it is a good summation of what they think the potential costs could be and any benefits that would come out of that spend. But again, as we mentioned, these teams are working independently, and so one didn't necessarily know exactly what the other one was doing, and so as we're looking at potential cost, there's substantial cost potentially to each of these plans. And so as we look at the work, we're going to have to make some decisions on ultimately what we think are the most benefit for that investment.
Okay.
I would also add that as we looked through each plan and developed the Gantt charts and the timing of when each action, everyone wants their action to take place. Every team wants their actions to take place in year one, right? So, but we had to really prioritize that, and Russell Knapp became very important in that process. So we tried to spread out some of the large cost items into different quarters, but ultimately even sometimes in different years and different budget cycles, because there's no way we can handle it in one budget cycle. But I think that we could handle a lot of it if we just space it out and look at different budget cycles. So there was a lot of discussion around that, and the entire cabinet dug into this, and it took us, three iterations to get there, but I think that we landed with a solid plan.
I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if you have kind of a major process question, can I look up and down? Mr. Westbrook, yeah?
I noticed that in the plan that we have some dates that are identified, and I was curious, when you identify a date for a certain initiative, is that when we're going to start work on it or start execution?
Yes.
Yes? The
Yes.
answer
Yeah.
to both questions is yes?
Yes. Yeah, so
I get it.
we had a list, but it's all in those Gantt charts, and you can see the ones that we prioritized in quarter one of this next school year. So those will be the ones that kick off immediately in August as we come back to school.
However, they might take more than just the quarter.
Sure,
So
yes.
some may take 2 weeks, probably not, but there were a couple of strategies that we were able to work through really quickly in the first cycle, but others literally may take a year, just depending on the nature of the action step.
Can I add to that? Are some of those kind of initiatives then already in motion, and it's like a next iteration of what we've been doing from cycle one?
There's a
Or-
few, not looking at all the Gantt charts right now, but there was maybe 3 or 4 that are yellow that are in progress, that are a carryover from cycle one. And so, yeah, those will continue going. But we took advice from our steering committee. We asked them to give us what are your priorities to start off with, and we listened to that. And so those are the ones, along with others, that are going to be started on this school year immediately.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other process questions, or you want to jump in strategy one? Yes, Ms. Borgman.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to really, we just got this a few days ago, so I haven't had a chance to really dive into it, but I can't wait to do that. I believe the mom is Bridget, who is part of, is that right? Did I get her name?
Brittany? Yeah.
Brittany, sorry, I caught the B. Sorry, Brittany. Brittany, I was kind of curious from your perspective, what you thought of the process, being a mom, working at an engineering firm, so you have the process-oriented brain, I'm assuming. So I actually just was curious to get your feedback on what you thought about it.
Yes, and to layer that, I used to work in higher education for 13 years. I started out of the womb. So did that. And then I went on to get a master's in management. So all of those processes spoke to me. First and foremost, I thought it was wonderful. I've mentioned already in some of the sessions, it put everyone on an even playing field. So you think when you bring, members of the board, district leadership, students, community members, blah, 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 you thought, entering the space, you enter in the role that you perceive yourself to be in. And then once we got in there, it was very clear that everyone's voice mattered. I really appreciated that and probably more so understood that when the students would speak, and it was recognized and understood and respected, and sometimes requested, like, let us know because we're just making stuff based on what we experience. So I loved that. I loved when I talked to other folks at work. So I work in Kansas City and right on the border, so folks on both sides of the line. Most of them had not been familiar with a process like this for their district. And so I thought that was really cool to kind of share this experience. And then for me personally, my boys are 8 and 9, soon to be 9 and 10. I would not say that I was like an overly involved parent in things happening throughout the district, but really this conversation was really eye-opening to me. I did not know the cell phone policy was such a hot button topic. That was really eye-opening. But even when we talked about COVID and how COVID, I've always heard people discuss, like COVID really impacted the kids. My children were so young, and I can somewhat see the difference even in just that year of one didn't get that fundamental kindergarten, let's do numbers and learn how to read, and the other one did, and there's almost a drastic difference there, but I've mentioned like both very intelligent. You speak to them, you don't think anything of it, but one of them, their test scores is not that great, but scratch that from the record. But nonetheless.
You love them just the same.
I do, he's great. But, so nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed the whole process. It made me more aware. I'm excited to see how else I can be involved in the process. Certainly bringing some of those analytical process skills to some of the conversations that I can. Because, yeah, it was great, and I'm really grateful to the district for allowing folks to come in and not just wanting to hear our voices, but literally actually hear our voices, treat us as if our voices mattered, and really creating a process that we can build upon. It makes me very excited, and hopefully I'll get to do it again sometime. So, yeah.
Thank you, Brittany, for
Yeah,
your
thank you.
feedback. I appreciate it.
I want to give a special shout out to Brittany because I served on the steering committee with her, and what I really appreciated about all of the voices in the room, but Brittany was really good at being like, let's pretend I don't work in education full-time. What do all of these acronyms mean? Break this down for me. And I think we very easily get into our education bubble where we're using a lot of jargon and language and acronyms, and it was really a good reminder that like we are in a little bit of an education bubble and we need to step out of that and speak with more plain language wherever we possibly can instead of our own language. So thank you.
Pleasure to work with you as well.
Question, or I'm just curious about feedback from you all, how the student voice impacted the conversations that were had in any facet of the organization of this plan.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be all me, but the student voice was incredible. So a prime example was the mental health strategy. We debated that. Dr. Gunn was an incredible facilitator. He really pushed us to consider only 5. I guess that's kind of the standard. And we were getting to that 6th one, and all of us were asking questions about, well, can we wrap that mental health one into something else? And our kids spoke up loudly that they needed it. We need that. And so I think that's a prime example. But they were very vocal throughout the entire process. So not only on the steering committee, but in the action teams, in the development of the actual plan. Each one of those teams had student representatives, so their voice is heard throughout the entire plan. Dr. Neal? Yeah.
Did you find that more amount of time was spent on determining the communication factor? That's been a recurring concern, issue with making sure that we get the message out right, whether it's thought exchange or what, you talked about parent training. How expansive was that? Was that parent training with the communication aspect as well, or when I can't remember who mentioned that, but about posting things on the website, and that's just one thing that stood out to me from both cycles. It's like,
I think
how are we
that's
communicating?
I think that's a great observation, because communication, consistent communication was a thread across multiple strategy areas. And that was something that was really important. I think the steering committee sort of set the stage for that in terms of sort of their big idea of wanting the Shawnee Mission School District to be the place to, live, work, choose for school. And so as part of that, I think those strategy teams took that to heart, whether it was the belonging team, the people team. They felt like it was important to have a platform that would appeal to all families, be accessible to everyone, and have consistent communication. They talked about there is communication at schools, but sometimes that message, doesn't get to everyone, or it might be shared slightly differently. And so really taking on, in cycle one, there were some components around communication and around surveying and getting feedback. This time it was really around not only getting the feedback, but really sharing out the message, creating a really robust, comprehensive marketing plan for the school district, and making sure that we do that in a way that is equitable and inclusive and accessible to everyone in our community. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Neal. Was that also kind of like, if we look at like the component of belonging, am I reading that right then? And the communication issues around belonging, they might even just be internal, so that if we're going to be equitable and create opportunities for belonging, we're putting some more intentional efforts around making sure all students know what opportunities are available within the district. Did I read that correctly?
I would agree, making sure students know, making sure parents and families know, making sure team members know what things are accessible to them as they're, we want to look and retain. There was a lot of discussion in that people committee around retention of team members, and making sure that they understand what opportunities are there for them. And so just having a very intentional lens around really shoring up and expanding communication was an important aspect of most, I would say most, if not all, of our strategies. Because I would say like learning, we mentioned making sure they know what class opportunities are there, but around technology. So communication really was a thread, and a thoughtful thread, and also making sure we're appealing to, linguistically diverse families in our community, and really having platforms that are easily accessible, user-friendly, consistently updated, and available was important to them.
Thank you. Ms. Ousley?
I just wanted to touch on both strategy 3 with people and strategy 2 with belonging, since they just came up. But one of the things I thought was really great about strategy 2 and belonging was that it's like the natural continuation of the DEI work, whereas the DEI work, I think it was mentioned, when the action teams presented to the strategic folks, or the steering committee, that, the DEI is the how and the belonging is the why. And it tied in really nicely for strategy 3. One of the things I think that's additional this year for the plan moving forward for the next 5 years, and I know it was mentioned by some of the folks, again, when it was presented to the steering committee, was that we're not just, trying to attract staff. We're not just trying to have our students belong, but also families. Like, we're also trying to have the people in our community want to be with us. And so that it's like that two-part, they all tie in together with each other. But I think the strategy teams for the belonging and the people really, whether it's certainly not, they weren't collaborating behind the scenes, but
Common themes, right?
Right, the same things coming up. I just wanted to point that out, that those were the two, that the DEI portion, that belonging is a part of that. It's the natural next step for that, and then with the people, that it applies to everyone in our community.
Thank you.
Board Member Owsley, I think I appreciate that you brought that forward, because the community is kind of a unique extension piece into Cycle 2 this time. And again, that was really set forth by the steering committee members and then carried through in a lot of those action steps. You see that they really took to heart that was to be the focus moving forward into this next cycle.
What did Dr. Stubblefield call the buildings on facilities? Was it Stubbs Hubs? Was that what was brought up? It was Stubbs Hubs, correct? I think when we were discussing facilities. Just hubs. Okay. All right.
Mr. Garcia, did you? Yeah.
This is about action or learning. This is just a
Yeah,
learning question.
let's just get, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No need to be.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on learning kind of in a general sense, but wanted to bring it down to a couple different themes of career readiness, ensuring that students are prepared for careers post-college. There's language like job embedded, and things like that, just career readiness. I'm curious how we considered, or what we considered, in terms of those opportunities for our students. I know that the Education Foundation has a great connection with so many businesses and business leaders in the community. Did our groups consider how we expand on that even more to create some of those opportunities for our students to see themselves in careers within our own backyard and things of that nature? Just want to know more about how we thought about that.
Sure, and I think a good reminder is, the meat of this will take place in these subcommittees, in these action team meetings. But to your question, I think something that we're doing right now that can be expanded upon is our work around real-world learning. And the Kauffman Foundation, our work with them. Clearly, there is a connection to the Education Foundation and those business connections, but finding those job-embedded experiences that our kids can get while they're still in school, to give them that value add, is, to me, what this committee was looking at, and finding ways that we can expand work around real-world learning, Kauffman Foundation, but not limited to that either, looking for other ways to get our kids engaged.
I think also strategy 3, if I remember correctly, picks that up a little bit in regards to real-world learning, especially around classified positions in the district.
Yeah.
Also, just to add one more thing to that would be in facilities, we discussed pretty heavily expanding on our CTC and what that could possibly look like for students.
Can you tell me what the CTC is? I know what it is, but can you help everybody else?
Yeah. It's the Center for
Career and Technical Campus.
Thanks for
You got it, Dr. Stubblefield.
Thanks for the help.
Sorry, Dr. Stubblefield.
No.
That was unfair, yeah. Dr. Hubbard.
Well, I had some help from Dr. Smith, for Mr. Smith here.
One of in the belonging piece, I think it was something for the future, there was a little discussion about family advocate and kind of engagement. Is that something, a discussion that was linked maybe to some chronic absenteeism, or was that, I just was curious a little bit.
If I remember correctly, that particular family advocacy position was really more about family families that maybe come to us from other countries or non-speaking families, non-English speaking families.
Okay. All right. And then, I'm sorry, there was a, can you also maybe speak to the mentoring? It looked like there was for retention purposes, there was kind of a number of different ways of kind of strengthening our mentoring initiatives, if it,
Yeah, there's some
feasibility
state
of that?
mandated mentoring that has to take place and that we do get funded for, but it's, according to this committee, a bit limited. And so I know that that's the ask, is for us to consider ways in which we can expand that mentoring beyond what's required by the state and find a way to fund those mentors who do that important work in our assistance in retaining staff.
All right.
Because we know that those first 1, 2, 3 years are so important. That's where we lose the most of our educators. So that mentoring piece is a huge part of that and preventing that.
And was there also a component too around classified staff mentoring?
Yeah, same thing.
components?
Finding ways in which we can mentor and grow our classified staff. That's what was one of the things that was really exciting about that particular actions plan was, coming from my current lens of HR, I think we did a really nice job of working on our certified staff, and we did a lot of work around classified too, but this plan is really pushing us to do a lot more with our classified staff and our community, which again is a great extension of what we are already doing well.
Anything else? All right. Mr. Westbrook?
I want to congratulate you and commend you for tackling the mental health issue. I think the kids serving as our conscience on that is inspiring. It's such a tough issue, and it's going to require such community partnership. School district has a role of leadership there to play. We can't do it by ourselves. Everybody knows that, but it is inspiring to hear the influence of the kids on that particular issue. And I think I have great empathy for their inspiration there, and I hope we can tackle that one with vigor. I just have to comment on the general strategic plan itself. I've unfortunately had the opportunity in my career to see a lot of strategic plans, and there are typically three kinds. One is the kind that you do over the weekend and put it on the shelf on Monday and say you've done it. And it's written by somebody who just couldn't get it done, but finally had a deadline to meet and got it read and written on the board. Some board said fine. The other kind is the kind that never gets really adopted because it's so process-driven that nobody ever gets with the business of adopting clear goals and objectives and deadlines. And so you say you have one, but it lingers. It just lingers. This one is real. I mean, this one really is precise. It has goals, it has deadlines, it has areas of accountability. It represents extraordinarily hard work, and clearly the community in every respect has been engaged in this hard work. And I'm proud to be able to know that this plan has authority, that this is not something where the board comes up with an idea on Monday or the administration on Tuesday, but we look to this to guide us, and there is authority in this plan, and that's not the authority of a personality or a politician or a program that has precedence or even a policy from Topeka. This is a plan that has authority because it was developed by everybody who's been so involved in it. And it is really, really hard work. I've seen organizations ignore this kind of effort and just try to get by without doing it, and they don't do as well. So I have tremendous praise for the people who worked on this and tremendous respect for the work. And unfortunately now I have to be accountable for adopting policies that reinforce what you've done here. But I thank you for the leadership.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Borgman?
So if there is a timeline that perhaps the board, if there's a timeline in one of these sections that perhaps the board feels like should be accelerated, do we have sort of the flexibility to perhaps speed something up if needed? Or how does that look from a process standpoint if the board feels like something may require more urgency than the timeline that's been provided to us?
So So I
You
think
want to
this.
take a shot at it?
Yeah, I will, yeah. I better start
This is
doing
part
it,
of our
right?
transition plan. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah, so I think this is your opportunity to give that feedback now. But I would also tell you that, I would suggest to you that administratively, we would have a broader view of what's doable and what the timeline is. And that's what you ask us to do, is to do some of those pieces there. But this is the time in which you would provide that feedback if you thought that something needed quicker attention.
I would also add that we strategically placed teams that wouldn't be doing the same. Like there are team leaders that might have an action in 1, I'm making this up, and an action in 3, and we don't want them leading the same big committees at the same time. So we tried to strategically, if the curriculum and instruction team is needed, we didn't want 5 action teams that needed those same people. So we tried to balance the load of what team members were available at what times. So in moving things, I think to answer your question, you would not adopt the plan as presented. You would adopt a plan with amendments, and you would have to have a first and a second and 4 people to say that. I mean, technically would be how you would do that. But I would caution you about that because we were very strategic about having teams that would be available to do it. So moving 1, I call it like whack-a-mole. If you move 1, you may need to move 2 or 3 to balance that.
Yeah, great feedback, and thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, please go
I would
ahead.
also add, Ms. Morgan, that we did take into consideration the steering committee. As I mentioned before, we asked them, what are your priorities? What are these 32 members, what are your priorities? What do you want us to start working on immediately? And that's what you see in that first quarter of this next school year. So there was a process in place to get that feedback from our community.
I just think, we would be remiss to not point out that, we had 8 public comments earlier this evening all around cell phone policy, and the request to make the policy more urgent than what the strategic plan outlines.
It's the first one.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's the first committee out of the chute.
Yep. So 4.1.3, I think that's it, right? 4.1.3 will be our team that will look into that work, that will look into cell phones, personal device usage. And so that was, when it came out of committee, it didn't have that parenthetical. And through the steering committee, we added that to make sure.
Ms. Embry, is that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to note, I think, especially given that we had 8 people here for public comment earlier, that 4.1.3 in the full plan does make it pretty explicit that we're going to look at the use of personal devices. I think what made it into the presentation, the parenthetical wasn't in there. So I want people to know, for folks watching at home or for folks who were here earlier, that that is included in 4.1.3.
Which is first quarter of, likely August, but definitely September.
Yeah, we actually talked about it in our district leadership team this morning. Talked about the 2 directors that are going to be leading that work and that they're going to need to get that going right away. So I'm glad you called it out because our community is certainly asking for that. We heard it at various board meetings. We heard it in the steering committee. We need to have that discussion.
Thank you for being so responsive.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Jamie,
that.
can you clarify when you were, did you want to move it back when you were asking that question?
Oh, no, again, there's just so much interest in it, and there's so much call for urgency, like to get something, in front of the board sooner rather than later. And so I just was unclear as to the timeline, as to when a recommendation may be brought before the board. And you haven't met yet, so it's hard to know that, I'm assuming, without having a first meeting.
Yeah, we haven't met. So those 2 district leaders are going to have to pull their team together, set a meeting. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, right? Some investigation, some feedback from our community. So parents, staff members, principals, kids. We need to listen about this.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the sense of urgency. We've had a number, I think that's a common challenge, I think, for all of us is to balance the need for urgency and to allow the process for reflection. So we move forward with sound policy and solid review of information that's available. So it's a tough balance. So I appreciate the sense of urgency, but I also want to respect the process so that we move forward with sound practice, sound policy that is reflective of the broad community. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the transparency behind it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Mr. Garcia.
We're talking about urgency, and the first thing that I thought of was mental health. I saw Inside Out 2 last night. Made me think of it,
Haven't seen
but
it yet.
I'm appreciative of the urgency that we have behind that as well. Can you speak to that just a little bit of
Yeah.
how we'll try to manage this moving?
Yeah, I mean,
forward?
certainly we have some practices, some programs in place that support mental health, not only for our kids, but for our staff. But I think one of the first things, I don't have the Gantt chart in front of me, is making sure that our community knows what those resources are, and then finding out what are some additional supports that they need. I think with a lot of these plans, it's going to be an investigation process on gathering information, what is needed, what's missing, and then finding out supports that we can put into place.
I just had one last kind of observation. I was just even looking at strategy 1 and learning, and just listening, Samantha, to you speak about the layout of the next steps. I really appreciate the integration. There's all the foundational work that's been going on over the years, whether it's kind of with the curriculum cadres or thinking about a grading system that's more competency-based, that's more meaningful to students, the integration of the work on real-world learning. And it's really exciting to see that just kind of move forward and it's kind of next level of integration. And I don't know if I'm mischaracterizing that, but in reading through just even the strategies in learning, it's exciting to see all the foundational work really take root and allow the district to kind of move forward in next steps. So kind of that next level of engaging students and putting those connections together between what they learn in the classroom, what opportunities might be for them in the real world. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Are we good? Good discussion? All right. Thank you. Thank you all very much for that
Thanks, team.
work and
Thanks for your
the
help. Appreciate it.
presentation. Okay. Dr. Hubbard, item 3.2, the student handbook update.
Yeah, so we have an elementary student handbook, middle school student handbook, and high school student handbook. And we have a team of directors that are going to be sharing the changes in those handbooks, and then you will see them as action items later in the board meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to, it looks like, Christy Darby.
Hello, good evening. My name is Christy Darby. This is Chris Lowe. We are both the directors of elementary services, and we have Dr. Ziegler here, and she is the chief of student services. So we're going to talk about the elementary, middle, and high school handbook updates. Changes or updates that we've done in this. I'm going to start with the first one. Next slide, thank you. So just a small update that we made is we took the information that was based on the strategic plan and the transfers policy, and we just included a live link so that the information would always be updated. So that was just one small change that we made.
So I get to speak on some updates to the discipline matrix that we have put forward for consideration. And I'm very proud to share that the discipline matrix updates include student representation and voice in the process of bringing these forward to you for consideration this evening. So that has been a big part of our focus in student services over the last couple of years with our Strategy 2 work from Cycle 1. So I want you to know that our students did initiate some conversations at the building level in a number of our high schools through student advisory meetings and listening sessions with building administrators that occurred this year, as well as at the district level when we convened our youth equity stewards, our student leaders across all of our high schools. And out of those conversations, ultimately in February, during one of our meetings with youth equity stewards, we held a roundtable discussion with our students. So we brought in student leaders over lunch from each of our Shawnee Mission high schools to sit in a room with district leaders as well as building leaders and just have a conversation about what their experiences are and what they see in our student handbooks and our policies and our practices that we could consider updating and doing better. So out of that work, as a result, we determined we needed to be more specific and explicit in addressing communication that relate to significant disrespect, specifically as it pertains to jokes that may be shared, jokes that may include slurs or other derogatory or demeaning comments. This was the voice our students brought to us. So item 12 is amended to reflect the feedback that we received and the outcome of those conversations collectively with our kids and our administrators. Item 13 was added, so that is to clarify and address when significant discrimination or harassment, as defined in Board Policy AC, may occur. So since this matrix was created, Policy AC was updated to expand to basically expand the representation and different classes that would be included in that. We wanted to mirror that in the discipline matrix so it's very clear for students that that is represented. Also on the discipline matrix, the category headings that are clipped off, but for the 2 columns that are to the right on the screen, those would indicate a range of actions that could be applied for a first offense. So in that second column for item 12, where we have an updated language, the range of actions that an administrator could select to apply in a situation range from E, which could be an office referral and a formal conference with administration, where we have conversations about the harm or potential what's happened and how we can do better. Or then that can go all the way up to a range of L, which also is clarified in the handbook. And that L could result as a short-term out-of-school suspension, based again on the severity of the situation. The third column indicates actions for severe or repeated offense, which in this case range from temporary removal from class in item J, all the way through N, which could be a short-term out-of-school suspension. I want to be clear and careful in noting that our building administrators, they have been reacting and being responsive, addressing behaviors and applying consequences for these types of behaviors when they are reported or observed. They've just been classified in different areas through the matrix. But this additional language provides explicit recognition and an opportunity to address and communicate and educate as our students and our families come back to us in the fall on what is appropriate versus inappropriate in our schools for review with all of our students, staff, and families at the start of the upcoming school year, should you choose to take action on what is recommended here. The next piece that I'll speak to is also from our student voice, and they looked at the handbook and also noted that in the section that exists on safe schools, while we do reflect and post at the start of the handbook information related to policy AC, so should you find yourself in a situation where policy AC would be something that you would need to access or you feel like it would be beneficial for you to look at, they wanted this also reflected in the Safe Schools section. So it was very pertinent and easy to access rather than finding it at the front of the document. So it's just bringing that into another connection based on the feedback of our students. Not new information, but just reiterating it in a different section. And I will turn it back over for the next slide.
All right, 3 other suggested updates that we have for your recommendation to review would be, we added for the elementary handbook heat guidelines to the elementary recess portion of the handbook. We've had cold weather guidelines, but we are suggesting that we go ahead and add heat recess guidelines as well. There was also a sentence in the elementary handbook which talked about what families and guardians can do if they're moving. We feel very confident that our elementary offices can handle any questions regarding what a family should do if they have a question regarding moving and their academic records. And then the other update that we're suggesting is under the section promotion, retention, and acceleration. We just updated the verbiage to be more reflective of board policy JBC. That section did not have that board policy reference, and we went ahead and added that reference to the board policy that was pertaining to promotion, retention, and acceleration. And at this time, any of us would be open to any questions you might have about the recommendations.
Can I ask, I'm not sure who is the person to ask, Dr. Hubbard, just describing, kind of going back to the discipline matrix, it was mentioned that it really kind of started with the students really wanting, sharing some concerns. How did that roll forward from there to this point here?
I'm going to let Dr. Ziegler, she led that most of those meetings.
So this was a collaborative effort with student services teams and our building administrators, but truly with our student leaders that have been working with us through that Youth Equity Stewardship Program. That served as a connection point. And there were conversations that happened in several high schools over, I would say, the winter months. But when we came together with Youth Equity Stewards in January, it became, when we have some open times for conversations about what are you seeing in your schools, what are areas where we can focus as kind of a feedback loop during that time for us and getting students involved and thinking about how they can make a difference. That's when this first started to bubble a little bit, and so we scheduled the intentional time for that roundtable conversation when they were back the next month to carry the conversation forward and really start to formalize, including our district directors and then leadership and learning team and Ms. England in looking at what is possible here and having some guidance on the language that you see.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
is very thorough. So among a number of voices that was heard are building principals who are going to kind of be responsible for making this happen. Were very much a part of the conversation and the voice, and thank you. All right. Any questions? Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. I know that the presentation was short, but the work that went into that was substantive, so thank you. Okay, we have our consent agenda. So that's item 4.1 through 6.2. I'd like to seek a motion to approve.
Move approval, Hembry.
All right, second?
Second, Garcia.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, we have a significant number of action items. So I'm just going to start with 7.1 and turn it over to Dr. Hubbard.
Yeah, so I'm recommending approval of the Cycle 2 2024 through 2029 Shawnee Mission School District Strategic Plan as presented earlier.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Garcia.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, item 7.2.
I'm recommending an increased total 3-year payment authorization with the vendor-assisted student transportation at an estimated cost of $7.7 million, originally approved at a $5.5 million mark, with final expenditures contingent upon the number of students utilizing special education transportation and the district's need for alternative transportation services. This expense would be funded with the general operation funds and title funds, with some reimbursement from special education funds.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval, Borgman.
Second?
Second, Ousley.
All right, just a quick question. So this transportation piece, is it kind of as a collective, it really doesn't change the budget much, but it just provides another tool to help get students to school?
It does. It could, there, and Chrissy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think there could be some exchange of budget items. For example, rather than using a large bus, we may be using assisted transportation. So it may reduce the operating budget for DS bus and increase assisted, or vice versa. So there could be a little bit of both, but I think we anticipate, because still due to lack of bus drivers, that we're picking up assisted transportation more often than not in these small route situations.
Thank you for all the planning ahead.
Dr. Ziegler?
That is correct, and our transportation numbers more than doubled in special education with assisted as well as McKinney-Vento students that we're transporting in the last year.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.3.
So recommending the approval of the elementary handbook, the middle school handbook, and the high school student handbooks and parent handbooks for the 24-25 school year pursuant to Kansas state statute.
Move approval, Borgman.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Ousley.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, item 7.4.
Recommending approval to purchase the district's general lines of insurance coverage with a total premium and fees at a cost of $2,259,435 for the 24-25 school year. Premiums will be paid from the operating funds, workers' compensation fund, and special liability fund.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Ousley.
All right, second?
Second, Hembry.
All right. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.5.
Recommending the district purchase natural gas utilities from Symmetry Energy Solutions for the 24-25 school year at an estimated amount of $500,000, with final expenditures contingent upon market cost and district need. This expense would be funded through the general operating fund.
Move approval, Borgman.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Hembry.
All right, all in favor? I didn't offer discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.6.
Recommending the district purchase electric utilities from Evergy for the 24-25 school year at an estimated cost of $7.2 million. Although final expenditures are contingent upon market cost and district need, this expense will be funded with general operating funds.
All right, Ms. Borgman. You were moving us along.
Move approval, Borgman.
Second?
Second, I was correct. Second, Ousley.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.7, sorry.
Recommending approval of the second amendment to the real estate purchase agreement for the Westwood View Elementary property.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Second?
Second, Ousley.
Okay. And this is just kind of extending closing to allow the city to do their business.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7.0. All right, 7.8.
So recommending the district purchase water utilities from Water District Number 1 for the 24-25 school year at estimated cost of $365,000 with a final expenditure contingent upon water and utility cost and district need. This expense will be funded through the general operating fund.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Move approval, Hembry.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Ousley.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.9, more fuel.
Yeah, recommending purchasing fuel for student transportation from vendors World Fuel, FNF Petroleum, and Ozark Mountain Energy for the 24-25 school year at an estimated combined amount of $800,000, although final fuel expenditures will be contingent upon fuel costs and district transportation needs. This expense would be funded through the general operating fund and special education funds.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Ousley.
Second, Borgman.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, 7.10.
So I'm recommending the approval of the intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 24-25 school year.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Ousley.
Second?
Second, Borgman.
And is this, Dr. Hubbard, is this statement of intent part of kind of the statutory requirement, and then we have a hearing later on?
That is correct.
Okay, all
So
right.
this is just intent, but the revenue neutral rate hearing would come at a later date.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.11.
So this is recommending approval to purchase an estimated total of about $288,000 in referee services from Arbiter Pay Trust Account for athletic competitions at all of our secondary schools for the 24-25 school year. This is a 2025 budgeted operating expense.
Move approval, Borgman.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Ousley. Oh, sorry.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.12.
Recommending approval of ATS Facility Services to provide supplemental custodial staffing for the 24-25 school year. The total anticipated cost of the proposed service agreement for the 23-24 school year would not exceed $2.14 million. This is a general expense and aligns with the Shawnee Missions District Strategic Plan Goal 5.1.1.
All right. Second?
Second, Westbrook.
All right. And this just helps us kind of with staffing and staffing shortages and, yes?
Yes, I want to be clear, though. I think we have a typo here. I believe it should say the 24-25 school year would not exceed $2.1 million.
Okay. So
That's
we'll,
what it says in the underlying memo.
That's what it says, yeah, but in the actual action item, we have the 24 and then we have the 23-24. We just missed that. So I think the agreement, no, I don't think. The agreement is for the 24-25 school year.
okay, so with that modification made to the recommended action, we don't need to.
I would say
do
just
first
make a
and second
motion
again.
for
Yep.
the contract for the 24-25 school year.
Okay,
Would be clean.
all right. Can we make that, let's just make that motion. Do I have
I'd
a
like to
first?
make a motion for the 24-25 contract for custodial services.
Thank you. Do I have a
Second,
second?
Borgman.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.13.
Recommending the approval of the attached agreement, P&A, for July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, between the Board of Education and the Shawnee Mission School District and the school psychologist. This provides an increase of 5.48 to 6.73% in the overall compensation packages for school psychologists.
All right. Motion to approve.
Move approval, Borgman.
Second.
Second, Hembry.
All right. And this action, these next two action items reflect the last compensation packages for groups in the district, yes?
7.14 will finalize that, yes.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 7.14.
Recommending the approval of the attached PAT agreement for July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 between the Board of Education of the Shawnee Mission School District and parent educators. This provides an increase of 5.6% in the overall compensation package for parent educators.
All right. Motion to approve.
So moved, Boyd and Arona.
Second.
Second, Ousley.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That feels good.
Efficient.
Yeah, yeah. All right. We have now time for board comment, item 8.1. Does anyone want to share? Yes, Ms. Boyd-Nerona?
I need to clarify, I mentioned incorrect date for the nominating committee. It is Saturday, August 17th.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Yeah, Ms.
I was
Embry?
going to just take a little bit of time to say goodbye to our beloved superintendent, Dr. Michelle Hubbard. I was trying to think of a few things I'm going to miss about you, and there are many, Michelle. I wanted to take a minute and just shout out a couple things. When we were getting ready to look for a new superintendent and you were leaving, I was doing this very informal poll of all the teachers at my own kids' elementary school. What are you going to miss most about Dr. Hubbard? What are you going to miss most about Dr. Hubbard? And they would all say, like, oh, you mean Michelle? And they were like, we love her, we see her, we know her, she knows who we are. Like, the level of visibility and accessibility you've brought to the role of superintendent in Shawnee Mission has been absolutely incredible, and I think it has been transformative in terms of the culture of our district, that people inside of our buildings know who you are, and you know who they are, and we are not signature lines on email addresses, but you're a very real person, and I've really appreciated seeing you do that. Another couple things that I'm going to miss, so I just want to give you some shout outs here. Your Friday notes are incredible. Like, I feel there have been other times and places where we would get them and they'd be like 3 sentences, and it'd be like 27,000 students and 2,500 employees, and there's a 3-sentence update, but yours are so complete and instructive. And I have really, really valued feeling like I'm in the loop and I have the information that I need to know to be a good board member for our community. And then last of all, I was thinking about how you're going to play so much pickleball in the future. And I will never play you in pickleball because you are the most fearless and courageous person I have ever met. I have really admired the number of times and places I have seen you do some version of, like, you know, there's something hard we're trying to do, and there are always 50 reasons why it could go wrong, or somebody could say this, or somebody could say that, or accuse us of this, or accuse us of that. And I've seen you so often just look somebody in the eye and say, but it's the right thing for kids, so we're going to do it. And that bravery you've brought to those hard conversations is something I've really respected and admired. So you will be very missed as superintendent.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, Dr. Hubbard and Dr. Gilhouse, thank you both for your service to Shawnee Mission. You both are just, what a great team the two of you are together, and I am so thankful that you have served this district and you've served it so well. You will be missed. You have definitely left the district in a much better place than how you found it. Thank you for leaving us with this phenomenal strategic plan. So you, although you aren't going to be sitting in those seats, definitely your leadership will continue for the next 5 years and probably many years after that. So thank you for your service. Have so much fun doing all of the things, and don't be strangers.
Just wanted to say thank you as well and add to it. I'm excited for the future of Shawnee Mission, looking at the strategic plan, knowing how you have left us off, knowing with what you've left us off with is important to me. I just had a conversation with a friend in the community today, and I said, she has a kiddo that will be in middle school next year, and she's kind of nervous, and I said, well, the state of that middle school is much better than when I was there, truly, it is. But I had such great memories, such fond experiences that I still think of, although not that long ago for me, but it's still, I just think about that conversation as we're having this meeting today about what the future holds, and I'm just happy to be a part of it, but I'm so grateful for your leadership and what we build off of that. So thank you and enjoy.
Could I have to say that if anybody who attended the reception this afternoon to recognize these two great leaders, the one element that was clear to me that was present was heart. And I don't know how you measure that, but I know without it, we don't win, we don't succeed. And you both have brought heart to your work. And people feel it, people know it, people are inspired by it. At the end of the day, it's what motivates everybody to give their extra effort to do what we do so well here. So that's a legacy you should be proud of, and I'm humbled to be part of it. Only 6 months part of it, but that 6 months have been very, very rich. So thank you for your work.
I just want to give a sincere comment of appreciation for both of you. I'm going to try and not say anything that I would regret saying later, so I won't share memories, but we've been through, the district has been through a lot for so many years, and Dr. Gilhouse, you've been here forever, literally. Well, I went to South, and when I first started on the board, I actually recall saying to Dr. Gilhouse, I'm pretty sure you drove a motorcycle, and he denied it. And we were with other administrators. He was like, I never drove a motorcycle. And I was like, I know you drove a motorcycle. And then like 30 minutes later, after everybody had left, he was like, oh yeah, I drove a motorcycle. And then Dr. Hubbard, I was at a reception dinner, and it was when I had very first joined the board, and I was the only board member there, but randomly the entire Turner board was there. And I did not know them, but each of them at one point in time or another made a comment to me regarding how fabulous you were and what a wonderful superintendent you are and how lucky we were to have you. And this was years before you were selected for the superintendent position, but all of them made sure that I knew that you were the best thing to ever happen to Shawnee Mission, and that they would steal you back in a heartbeat if they had ever had the opportunity to do so. And I think it's really remarkable that you had that influence on 2 different boards, and to conclude your career with Superintendent of the Year, and that you and Joe have been able to do it together in your professional relationship, and to have you both at the dais for these last 3 years. You've been a phenomenal team, and to have you both go at the same time is such a loss to the district. But you're obviously allowed to go and have fun and play pickleball, maybe drive motorcycles, I don't know. But you will, the risk-benefit analysis is really, but you will be very much missed, and everything that you brought to the district is truly valued, and members of our community will remember your work with their children and with their, friends or partners who were educators, or the difference you made for them in their lives. And so thank you.
Please, please, yes. In the brief time that I have been on the board, and especially when I started, one thing that I can say about both you all, and the times that I panicked, you guys didn't know it, but I was like, oh my God, is that you all have been even-keeled throughout. I know, things were probably said and done that I didn't see, but I'm telling you, there have been many times where I've sat here and I've just been like, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna do? And you guys are just, we're gonna do it. Get it done. And I was like, yeah, what they said. But that assuredness helped me want to stay here and serve and stretch and do my role the way it should be done while you all were here. So the little bit that I can say about my experience with you all is that you all have been even-keeled, and I appreciated that. I appreciate that. I really appreciated that element of your leadership.
Thank you. Dr. Gilhouse gets all the credit for that because he keeps me even keel.
Well, with this next level learning and facilities, I constantly tell my kids they should go through K-12 again. Just start over. Just hit kindergarten and run through moving forward. So we can't thank you enough. And should I conclude this meeting? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All
You
right.
ready, Dr. Gilhouse?
All right. Okay, so meeting is concluded. We will meet again on July 22nd, 2024.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Be ready, Dr. Schumacher.
And Dr. Stubblefield. Welcome to the dais.